Hey, Coach.
Hey, my God.
How's it going?
Good. How you doing? Good
Good.
to see you again. Good
Yeah,
to see you.
give me a hug.
Hey, you look...
Jeez, it's been... All right, everybody. So I am here today in Guilford, New Hampshire with Coach Paul Lavigne, longtime Coach Paul Lavigne, who I've known for quite a while, back to the 80s when you were coaching in high school, and my team at Concord High School played against you in West. And then you and I crossed paths again up at Plymouth State College in the early 90s.
Yep.
And here we are in 2025.
Oh, my God.
Just a few days later, right? A few
You're
years.
You're not playing anymore, and I'm still coaching.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a big difference.
So a huge difference. So what we're doing here, everybody, is, again, this is Pete Hansen of Pete Hansen Football. We're talking American football, American gridiron, talking to coaches, trying to understand, why they got into football and what they are getting out of it and what they hope to impart in young men coming through. But today we're getting a special look at some of the things Coach Lavigne's been doing here with the facilities. Now, keep in mind, Guilford didn't have a lot of facilities, and we're looking at a garage here, essentially.
Yeah,
and I'll just give you a little perspective. This is Coach Lavigne, and this is a bigger garage. It's almost looks like a farm. Because it was a farm.
It was a farm, and the guy who had this land, I think there's like about 100 acres here. When he died, he donated it to the school district.
Yep.
And they've been slowly changing this into a Field of Dreams type thing,
Yeah.
we don't have locker rooms in here or showers. Well, the water has to be. They got to fix that, but we got a nice weight room in here. We got a locker room in here, so it's only about 2.5 miles from the high school. The kids like it. They like it.
They can drive right down after school. All right, everybody. So we're gonna take a tour of the weight room. Is that right, Coach?
Yep, that's right. And
I'll follow you.
Come on in here. The amazing thing about this place, there was just a storage room. They had all kinds of stuff. This is where the kids change up. They had these pile of mats piled up over there, and I kind of took them and spread them out, put some nice chairs in here, try to keep the kids so they feel like they're important when they walk in here. And to other people who have big high schools like Londonderry, I mean, this would be their garage, And, yeah. But seeing as how we don't have a weight room at the high school, this is the next best thing, and I'm trying to make the best out of it. So this is where the kids change up.
You got some teams up here from prior years. Yeah,
and
junior varsity champs.
The junior varsity Granite State League. It's not the high school. It's basically it's the Pop Warner program type thing. So this is my think board. I try to give the kids something to think about when they walk in every day. And we're coming up to the last week of our spring lifting program. So those are the 3 days that we have to do. And they know what they're doing now. Considering they've never had a weight program here at the high school. And the high school, I think it's like about 15 years with a football program.
Yep.
So I'm trying to bring it up a couple notches. And actually,
very good.
The weight room at the high school, which they didn't have, is now finished. It just finished not too long ago, and now the head coach doesn't want to go back to the high school because we have more here than they do over there. So
tell me a little bit about the breakout here. So it's Guilford, but it used to be a United school.
Yeah, it was. Well, it started off to be just Guilford back in the 15, 12 years ago, and then over the last 6 or 7 years, they got together with Belmont.
Right.
And Belmont students would come here. That's a heck of a drive. That was like about 10 or 12 miles from Belmont High School to here. And it just wasn't bringing in, when you put Belmont and our schools together, enrollment-wise, it popped them up to Division II. So, and, they weren't doing very well in Division II.
Big jump.
So I think they decided to drop Belmont. Now we're in Division III. Now we're more compatible to other teams that we're playing now. So it's been good.
And for people that don't know, in New Hampshire, being a smaller state, oftentimes multiple schools connect and have one team through the school. Increase the players and numbers. And
I think it's saving a couple programs. Like hockey in Manchester was going to die, but they got together.
Pembroke,
and so teams are doing that, and that's kind of saving the teams. So it gives some of the kids. But you feel bad for like a Belmont, because I think the starting quarterback when he was a junior was from Belmont, and then when they broke up, he was a senior and he didn't play. But he was good. He probably went to a prep school. So
I like this. Today's goal: outwork yesterday. Right?
Yeah.
You only have to be better than you were yesterday.
That's it. That's it.
And then we have the clip for the Cougars cruise to the title. Very cool. So now we're in the weight room.
This is the weight room, and this is where, when I first got here and I started the program, you couldn't walk through here. There was so much machines and things. The local club in our Guilford area was donating all these machines, and it got to a point where the kids were not using them because they didn't have a program, and you couldn't walk through here because there was so many things. So I got my trailer, my truck, and we got busy hauling things to the dump. And even the stuff at the dump, people were coming and getting it. So they weren't. It was not wasted. So but I tried to make it open up. I tried to keep it clean. That's my only problem is washing it down, and I'm trying to instill some pride into them like that.
Bench press club.
Yeah, the bench press club. I'm trying to make them think. At first, they didn't know what the heck it was, but then all of a sudden, we started picking up numbers, and we started picking up.
You break 200 in the bench in high school, you're onto something.
Because whenever you talk
walking a little proud when you get over 200, right?
Whenever you talk about weightlifting, hey, you've been weightlifting. Yeah, the first thing out of their mouth is, what do you bench? What do you bench? So I decided to make. I've always had the bench press club since I started, but. And it's nice. This is what I was watching TV one day and I came across this commercial and I said, you know what? I like that commercial because there's something into it. And it's that investment that has that. We do better when you do better. And I says, you know what? That fits our program right here. So I put it up there and the kids kind of like it, and they kind of. And I'm kind of a fanatic on these little sayings, like grit is the measure of two muscles, the brain and the heart. And and you already got next season's schedule up here. Yeah, next season and last year.
Let everybody know.
And I got a little reminder about last season too. So so it's good.
Yeah, well, it looks like you have everything you need here.
Yeah, we do. We this is
well laid out.
This is the other section, which is kind of the legs section. I made it, and we got posters up there for keeping the kids keep track of what they do every day, and got a little sayings here and there. And,
very cool.
Yeah, so it's been a blessing, and like I said, the kids love it. They can't wait to get in here. Well, at least that's what they tell me. But you never know. You never know.
That's what they tell you. Right.
And
well, very cool.
I got a little story with these things. These are yellow weights. They're when I was. Well, I'm going to get to the story.
They look a little old school.
When I got fired, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But these are the weights we use after a workout. Willie Hall, ex-Central High coach for many years, when I went to talk to him, he says, Paul, what you should do is after you practice, the kids are tired, they're sweating, put them through a little outdoor weightlifting program. And they do like about 8 exercises, and they do them when they take their shoulder pads off their helmet, and they're all sweating, and they grab the weights and they do it. And I'll tell you, I've been living by that since before West High days. So
all right.
So I'm saving those for the fall. Cool. So and that's
some of this equipment looks like it goes back to when I was playing. Right. But it's timeless, right?
Yeah.
The exercises are timeless.
I think the machines are nice, but you know what? There's nothing like old-fashioned things that I'm a firm believer in push-ups, bench press, and deadlifts. Those are the 3 things that I really push the kids on. And they when they first started with deadlifts, they couldn't lift this thing right here or this one.
Without the weights.
Now they're warming up with this thing.
Right.
So it's they're getting up there. We had a couple of kids that was almost 400 pounds on the deadlifts. That's pretty good. So
how many players did you guys have this past year?
During the season?
Yeah.
During the season we had, I think it was about 36.
Yep.
And
And that's 9 through 12, or do you
That's 9 through 12, and I'm hoping that by next fall we're going to be in the 40s because we had a pretty decent season. We ended up 6-4, and I think that's going to bring in the young Pop Warner kids who are freshmen now.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be coming out. Yeah. But this winter in a weightlifting, which they never had, like I said, we ended up with 24 kids weightlifting in the wintertime, which, to be honest with you, is very good for the first startup.
Sure. Yeah.
The springtime, we have 11 kids, but you got lacrosse, you got baseball, you got track, you got tennis, you got all these spring sports. Yeah. And I personally like it when kids play other sports. I really do. I think, as you know, when you're in high school, that's the time to play sports. Because once you get out of high school, if you go to college and you're lucky to play one sport, you good. But after college, guess what? It's
pretty much all done. It's
the
all
men's league if you're good enough. If you don't get hurt or if you don't get fat, you're all set.
All right. Well, let's go take a walk outside.
Okay. Yeah. When I first got here, the trainer for the football team used to tape outside on the bleachers or on the ground, and I felt bad for her. She was always on the ground. So this winter, when we came into this room here, let's see. This was our storage room. It was completely full of what I consider to be crap. All right. So I cleaned it out.
I was gonna say, there we go.
I cleaned it out. And I just finished it about 2 weeks ago. I gave her, and she saw it, and she's ecstatic. She said, now she has a place to
tape ankles and do all that stuff and treat. And
this is it. So, and my last goal for the year.
The old ice tub. Is that what that is?
Those things. I hate those things. This is my last job for the year before the fall.
All right.
See, this is the extra stuff I threw out.
Yeah.
You probably won't believe this, but this is the visiting team locker room.
Oh, okay.
Would you change up in this place?
I guess you have to.
Okay. So
and then you got to go use the porta potty, right?
I mean,
you're talking about.
Yeah. So my job is when I come up later on this early summer is I'm going to clean this place out. And the first thing I'm going to get rid of when we get in here this summer is get rid of this thing. As a visiting team, this is the last thing I want to see when I come in here is who we're playing. So I'm getting rid of this thing. But this is just basically another storage room now. And so, but during the fall, they come in here, they change up, they go outside. So it's slowly but sure. I think we're starting to move in the right direction. The whole staff is helping me out with all this stuff, and the head coach, Brent is O'Hara. He's behind me what I'm trying to do, and I like it. They give me some responsibility, and yet the best thing about this was probably, besides 1 year at Bedford, this is probably the most fun I've had in my entire career, because I'm the defensive coordinator, and I don't have to worry about school, about grades. I do worry about grades, but parents, superintendent or whatever. I don't have to worry about. I just come here, I work, I go home, have a drink with my wife, we eat dinner, go to bed. So I had a great time this past year. It was the one most enjoyable year I've had in a long time. I mean, I was state champions at Milford, Inner Lakes, and that was great. And it rewarded me with hard work. But I take things home. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, be working on football, and now I get up at 5, so I get an extra hour of sleep. So that's not bad.
Yeah, it's different, right? Because as you know, I got back into coaching the last couple of years at Pembroke Academy, and I have a whole new respect for head coaches. We have Coach Will Mower at Pembroke, and the amount of work and effort. He teaches at the high school, so I think advanced AP history. So he's got a full plate already. He's got 2 young kids. His wife works there too, but he gives his whole heart and soul to the team.
And to be honest with you, you have to give your heart and soul to coaching these days. You do. You just get, I think coaches today, compared to my day, coaches today have a lot more outside pressure coming in.
Yeah.
I think the parents have taken that up another level that doesn't look
and there's
good.
definitely the email, the communication, the social media now. There's constantly things that are coming up that he's dealing with students, and since he's a teacher right there at the school, he's getting emails during the day, about players sometimes.
Why is it? Or my son can't make practice today because
it's a lot more than just coaching football. So kudos to you guys, and you've been doing it for a long time, and we'll talk about how the game has changed or how coaching has changed over the years, because that's going to be an interesting thing.
You can close that if you can.
Yep.
Don't worry about the lights, they go off.
All right, so now we're outside, and we're going to go on a tour of the field here, and I'm just going to do a view so our viewers can see. We're in the middle of a field, essentially, right, Coach? This was all donated land to the
donated
school,
land,
and now
we got like 100 acres here, and this is our football lacrosse field. We're here. That's a practice field over there for other sports like
lacrosse,
soccer, and lacrosse. And then way on the other side, which we probably won't go to today, but way on the other side is the football practice field. So,
okay.
But this is our home game field right here. So.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit.
Yep.
Where did you start off? Where did you grow up? Did you play high school football, college?
Yeah.
And what really drove you to get into coaching football?
Well, I'll tell you. Back when I was 7 or 8 years old, football wasn't Pop Warner and stuff like that. High school wasn't a lot, but Thanksgiving and New Year's Day, our family would go over to my grandmother and grandfather's house, and that was the first time that we could watch TV. We didn't have a TV at our house, so we were looking forward to going over to Grandma's house and watching TV. So what happened is that I started watching this sport on TV that I never seen before. This is, again, I'm in the 6th grade, and I'm saying to myself,
What years roughly were we?
Oh my God, that was
not to let everybody know how old you are, Coach.
that was probably I was probably like in 1955, 56. When I was in the 6th grade, something in that area. So it's been so long, but I looked at this TV and it was black and white, and I said, oh, look at those teams. And I started picking up the sport, and I started getting excited about maybe me playing someday. But again, we didn't have Pop Warner or any young youth leagues at all. So we just kind of, what I started to do, this was probably where it got started. I started to get a couple of kids in our neighborhood, 4 or 5. We would have a little game of football. My mother gave me for Christmas a football that had little wedges or edges along the football. So as my small hand, I could grab it, which was really great. But unless if you caught it and it hit your face, it would scratch you.
Then it's not so great.
Yeah, it wasn't so great. So we used to have a little neighborhood team after a while. We had like about 13 guys on our team. So we ended up, I ended up organizing this thing, and that's when I started getting ready for coaching. And then I went to high school, played my freshman year, played JV ball my freshman year, and I liked it. It was good. But I was a quarterback, and that's what I was going to be. Then when I became a sophomore, my coach, Ed Kissel, who was, I tried to really follow him as a coach, he decided to make me a fullback, which I really loved. And then when I was a junior, he decided again, I don't know what it was about me and him, but he decided to make me an offensive guard and a linebacker. And for those 2 years, my junior, senior year in high school, and my 4 years in college, that's what I was. I was a linebacker and an offensive guard, and I loved it. It was great. And as a lineman, you like simple rules. Simplicity was always it. And that kind of picked me up into my coaching career, is I always kept things simple. I never wanted to make it complicated. And so I got into playing football. I got to a point where What happened was the late 60s, early 70s was probably my worst time of my life. All right, and I'm going to say this, and this is not bad. I got married. All right, that's number one. So that wasn't the worst part of my life.
Does your wife know that?
Yeah, we're very happily married. We've been married like 56 years, so that's good.
All right.
And what happened was that we got married, and I graduated from college. I immediately started working for my father. He had one of the biggest auto body repair places in New Hampshire. And I started working for him, but I didn't like it. But as I'm working for him, I'm playing for the Lowell Giants. They were a farm team for the Patriots. Back then, every team in the eastern part of the United States, the Redskins, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Giants, they all had farm teams, and we used to play against each other. And then one game, like about the third to the last game, I got my knee blown apart. And I said, that's it, I'm done with football. So I had to decide, and so I'm still working for my father, and I decided that I didn't like it. I really didn't. I gave him credit. He did what was probably the hardest thing that a father could do. He fired me.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Sat you down and said, this isn't working out, Paul.
He called me in his office. I never forget this day. He called me in his office, and he said, sit down there, Paul. And I said, yeah, what's up, Dad? And he said, I got to let you go. I'll give you time to find another job, but I got to let you go. To that day, I mean, that day, for a long time, I hated him. But he did the best thing in the world for me. Yeah. He made me get out of that business, and he made me get a job as a teacher at Parkside Junior High School for a year. And then at that time, I decided to go back to college, get my master's, and be a teacher / coach. I thought that's what I wanted to do, was coach. It was in my blood. I wanted to do it. So I decided to do it. So.
All right. So as you think about, the things you try to do or you learned over your coaching career, what are some of those principles or values that you try to?
Well, I think what I try to instill is that, like I said, when my father fired me, I had to make a decision in life, and I decided to go back to school, get my master's, and then get a job in Claremont. That was my first job in Claremont. Kind of the 1968, 69, 72 years were kind of really rough for me, because I got fired by my father. My wife got pregnant, and which we were very happy about. And then after the baby was born, after 2 days after the baby was born, the baby died. And that kind of set me back. And really, I didn't know what to do. And then to lead up to discipline, my first year coaching ever, I did what I learned at Bowling Green State University. Nothing but a great program. And what I did was I pretty much copied them, and I ended up being 0-10. So that kind of set me back a little bit.
Where were you coaching at that point?
Stevens High School.
Stevens High School in Claremont, New Hampshire.
Yep. And then the second year, I'm doing the same thing, and only I'm working a little harder, but it's doing the same thing. And I thought I was working a little harder. I was 0-10 again. So here is Paul Lavigne, who just got fired by his father, lost a baby, and now I'm 0-20. I get called into the superintendent's office, and he was a great man, George Disnard. And he called me, he said, Paul, we have to make a change. And he says, I have to let you go. Not teaching, coaching. Whew, you should have taken a knife and put it right in my heart. I didn't know what to do now. Here I am, I'm going through all these problems, and I'm saying to myself, this doesn't help, this is not me. But what happened was the sophomore class, my first year there, when we were 0-10, they were juniors, we were 0-10. When they were seniors, this was my big turning point in my life. I don't know what it was with them. I don't know what they saw in me. But when I got fired, 12 seniors got together and they had petitions and they went around the whole town of Claremont having people sign petition to get me back in. I get called back into Mr. Disnar's office and he says, "We want you back." And I didn't know what to say, what to do. I had tears in my eyes. I had tears in my eyes before when they fired me. Now I got tears in my eyes now they rehired me. So I said, "Thank you." And the first thing I did is I went to see Willie Hall, ex-Central coach. He told me, "Paul, get your butt into a clinic, do something, learn the game of football the old-fashioned way from the ground up." Because I came from Bowling Green in.
Right.
That's why I recommend for anybody young, don't look at TV and want to be a Kansas City Chiefs offense.
Yeah.
You know, I said, just be simple. So I listened to him. I went to a clinic, and guess what? The guy that I listened to for about 3 hours in a session, and then they had questions and answers. You could go aside. Jerry Sandusky. Does that ring a bell to you?
Yes.
The ex-Penn State coach who got in trouble.
Oh, that coach, yes.
That coach. So what he did is he told a small group of coaches, "This is the defense that you guys have to run. It's simple. It's great." Penn State used it back then in the 70s. So I came back home and I got together with my Stevens High kids who were not doing anything in the winter. We went through a first winter weightlifting program, and then I was teaching them a little bit more about defense. We came back in that year, my third year, and I have 2 turning point games in my career, and this was one of them. We played Springfield High School from Vermont. We played them in Claremont. Now, I just finished 0-20. We're playing this team, and my stomach, if you had took a picture of it, would have been full of nothing because there was nothing in it for about a week. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't do anything. We went out and we beat them 12-0. The AD came in, who fired me. AD came in, he grabbed me, he hugged me, he was crying like a little baby. He says, "Paul, I am so happy for you." And I get tears now just talking about it.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest turning point in my career. And it was at that time is when I started saying, okay, from now on, what I'm going to teach these kids is the way I grew up. Nothing was given to me. Everything I had was to earn, and I didn't make fun of anything. I just kept to myself, and I worked hard. I would work at night. I would work in the morning. I would work on Sundays and Saturdays. So my recommendation to young kids who want to coach today, get off your butt and do some work. And don't worry about what you see on TV. Worry about what you see on the field. And that, to me, was my whole turning point. You know,
So humble beginnings, right?
Yeah.
Humble beginnings. You've kept that humility throughout your career. Hard work, dedication.
Yeah.
Defense. Sounds like you learned a lesson from the Penn State coach about defense wins championships, and
exactly.
the other team can't score.
Yep.
All you got to do is put 3 on the board at least, right?
That's
and
it.
You can win.
In fact, that first year, not to interrupt, but that first year that I won the game, we ended up being 4 wins, 5 losses, and 1 tie. And the amazing thing about it, the 5 losses was a grand total of 31 points. So that's when I knew that defense was the one I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a defensive coach.
That's interesting because you know, in some of my other conversations, the old saying of defense wins championships comes out in almost every one, right? Because you can put up as many points as you want, but if you don't stop the other team, right? So that's interesting that still rings true today.
Yeah.
And I like that advice about don't watch the NFL, because the NFL is so complex. They're professional athletes. We're talking about high school athletes with limited understanding of football already, right? They probably only have 2 or 3 years under their belt. To learn a lot is hard.
It is. And, you know, like I said, my coach, Ed Kissel, and Willie Hall from Central, these guys, what they did is if you can't run off tackle, you're not going to win a ball game.
Yeah.
And I believe in that. The first play I put in every year when I was an when I was the head coach, was off tackle right, off tackle left. Boom.
There we go.
We spent 3 days on those two areas right there. Once I was happy, we moved on. But
Right.
You got to be able to run the ball. Yeah, today everybody's a passer. Got wide receivers. They can look good with their socks up, and the quarterback has got all this fancy stuff all over his helmet and stuff. But you know what? Yeah, when you got a lot of scratches on your helmet, you're winning games.
Right.
You're winning
Right.
games.
So now you talked about the things you try to impart right away.
Yep.
With offense. You got to be able to run off tackle.
Yep.
So sounds like you build a foundation and then go from there. Is that?
That's pretty much it. I really, and a lot of coaches will say this. They believe in the basic fundamentals of offense and then a good sound defense. But sometimes what they say and what they do is two different things. And I'll be honest with you, I've lost some games because maybe it was too simple. But
Yeah.
I when I left the field, win or lose, unless it was a blowout, I really felt good every game I coached ever completely. But that first game that we won, my career was probably the biggest turning point of my whole life. And from there, Stevens High School, that's when I decided to kind of move on, because I like Claremont. I love the kids there. I liked everybody there. Everybody was great to me. But for some reason, inside of me, I don't know what it is, I felt like I needed to move. So Milford High School opened up. I says, I'm going to apply for that job. I went down there, and a great man, Dick Mosquito, was the coach that was retiring. And I said to him, Dick, can you do me a favor? Can you recommend me for your job? And he says, I'll do my best. So I listened to him, and I left. Then I got something in the mail, maybe about a month after 2 weeks after my interview, and it was from the athletic director from Milford, and he said, we're going to go with someone else. And I said, all right, thank you. So I'm at the Steve Schubert football camp in the summertime. This is the second week in July now. It doesn't mean too many things for too many people. Second week of July, I'm getting ready at a summer camp, and I'm also getting ready for my football coming up in Stevens. I get a phone call from the athletic director at Milford, and he said, Paul, the coach just declined the job. Now, this was about 3 weeks after I was told that I didn't get the job. He says, would you be interested in reapplying for the job? I said, I'll think about it. I'll give you a call back. I hung up, and I got right away with Willie Hall. He's the guy that's really helped me out a lot. I said, Willie, and I told him the story. He said, Paul, this is what you should do. Give him a call back, say, I got the job or not. I said, don't fool around with reapplying. Right. So I called, I said, Mr. Hardwick, I said, offer me the job or I'm not interested.
Right.
He said, it's your job. So, but now
good.
I have exactly 3 weeks to get ready for the Milford team.
Yeah.
And
because football starts in early August, mid-August.
Early August.
And back then you would go to camps, and it was pretty
my
intense,
God.
3 days.
But the hardest part is I'm living in Claremont. I got to find a house for my wife and I.
Oh, right.
And my firstborn.
So everybody has to move.
Yeah. I said,
what about school? Were you a teacher still?
I was a teacher at Claremont, and so that's another thing. I didn't know what I was going to do, and so I ended up. I worked it out. I worked my butt off for about 3 weeks. Job at Milford, and what I'm doing now is I'm getting ready for Milford, and I got 2 weeks to go. And we got the kids together. I got some coaches together the last minute, bang, bang, bang. To make a long story short, the next most important game besides the first game I won was coming up. We were playing Exeter, at Exeter, and we got our butts kicked.
Okay.
It was hard. We got our butts
Exeter's
kicked.
a year in and year out powerhouse, right?
Oh, Exeter.
Big high school, great coach.
They had, what's the name, Suisinski? Skip
Yep,
Suisinski.
Skip.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was a fantastic football player. And we got a...
Oh, when he was playing.
Yeah, he was playing.
So I'm going to be talking to Skip and Bill Ball.
Oh, yeah.
And tomorrow, actually.
Oh, are you good?
And I heard that Skip Suisinski had a high school game where he ran for over 300 yards. Does that sound like it could have happened?
Yeah,
because he was a big kid, right?
He was a big kid.
Big kid in high
and they
school.
ran the single wing, so he ran off tackle, he ran sweep, he passed the ball, he actually kicked the ball. He did. He was one of the best all-around athletes I've ever seen. But the thing was, he was so big. He was like 6'3",
Yeah.
220 pounds or something like that. It seemed bigger, but we got our butts kicked by them.
Okay, yep.
And
early on at Milford, things didn't start off all that great.
0-1 right away.
Yep.
And then we were 0-2. We went to BG. We got beat down there.
Bishop Girton.
Bishop Girton. And then we were 0-3. We went down Massachusetts. We got beat down there. And I'm going to myself. I say, okay, is this happening all over again? Am I going to go 0-20? So we won a game. Beautiful. We won another one. We got to a point where we were 6-3. We qualified for the playoffs. And we were getting ready to play for the championship game. That's how much we lucked out towards the end. I don't know if we lucked out, but that's how much we did.
Yeah, you improved.
And guess who we were going to play?
Exeter.
All right? But I'll tell you, that was my second turning point in my whole career. I tell myself, I says, I'm going to take that 4-4 defense. I'm going to specialize in just one defense, and I'm going to stop everything that they can do without calling a defense the whole game. We're in one defense.
A read
and react. That was it.
Yep.
And we beat them. And
wow.
Yeah, we beat them, and we beat them. I'm not saying a lot, but we beat them pretty good.
Yep.
And that was my second most important game of my career, because that was my first championship game. And then the next 3 years at Milford, we won 4 state championships.
4 straight, which is unheard of.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's done it since.
No, not since, but
There's been a couple 2 or 3 peats.
There's been, so that was my big turning point. After that, I went to, that's when after 6 years, I said, 4 state championships in 6 years. I says, again, something inside me says I got to move on. So I got a job at Memorial. I went there for 3 years. And then after 3 years, I went to West High School and got a job there.
Before we get into West, though, what did you instill the same things when you went to Milford, like the same foundational, same culture you were trying to build, the values?
Yeah, the big difference at Memorial, we didn't have too many good athletes, but the kids worked hard. We lost games, obviously, but we didn't get bombed. We got better and better in those 3 years. The only reason why I left Memorial High School to go to West is because my son and my daughter were both going to be at West High when I was at Memorial. And I know I didn't want to coach against my son. That was one rule. I said flat out no. So I applied for a job at West High School. I got a teaching job. I got a coaching job. And then after that, my career just kept going and going. And here I am.
Very good. So one of the things about when you were at West was, because that's when I was playing, right? So we're going to go back and we can go into that a little bit. We had, you were at West High School. I was at Concord High School. This is the late 80s. 1988, in fact, was my senior year, that fall of 88. And we played you guys in Concord, last game of the year. Both teams were 7-1. So the game would ultimately decide who had the #1 seed going into the playoffs, because at that point, 4 teams made the playoffs. So there was a lot on the line. And I remember walking down to the field, and the crowd was huge. Half of West showed up. It was like 4,000 people. New Hampshire high school football is pretty big. And what a barn burner of a game. It was 14-13, back and forth, a lot of excitement, some turnovers. And like most games, it ends up couple of things don't go right for one team, and the other team wins when
Yeah,
you're two
that was
great
it.
teams playing.
Yeah.
But you had some really good players on that team. Aaron Scribner was a tight end. I played in the Shrine game with him.
He's a great kid.
Pat Goslin at running back, who was, what, 6'2", 215-ish?
215, 6'2",
Big kid.
yeah, big bull.
And then you had a scat back. I can't remember his name. He was
Matarazzi.
Matarazzi.
Yeah, and John Tippett.
Fast, shifty, quick kid.
Yeah, he was kind of like you hit him, he would be going down, but he'd get up and keep going.
Yeah.
You know, it was like
Whereas
ragtag.
Pat Goslin would just run towards and over you.
Yeah, yeah.
He was a great guy too. And at the time, these are like bitter games, for the high school kids.
Yeah.
But as I've had time to reflect, I'm like, I love these guys I played against. And if I run into them, it's like you run into an old friend,
Yeah.
Aaron Scribner and I played on the Shrine game, and I really just connected with him. He was a great guy too.
He was, I consider him to be one of the best I've ever coached. And it wasn't because he was very talented. He had a knack for where the ball was going, and he was a tough kid. He hit anybody. He was just a good all-around player. And the thing I liked about him most is that he would never say anything to anybody except when the team was screwing around, he'd get pissed off at them and he'd yell at them. And
Right. So talking about that a little bit, right? So what does your ideal player have? What are those traits that you always looked for?
I think my ideal football player, and I'm trying to instill it here at Guilford, is that it's just don't talk the talk. Just come to the game, work hard. I mean, and put some time and effort in it. Like I'm trying to get these kids in a weightlifting room, and I'm trying to tell them, you got to get bigger, you got to get stronger, you got to play with your heart, not with your mouth, And I think that's what a lot of. I'm not sure if a lot of kids here or there. I'm not trying to put that on anybody, but I think there's a lot of talk going around, And I think the TV is kind of
TV, social media, all those things sort of play into that.
Kind of killing us a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, and I think too at times, and and I know we're painting with pretty broad strokes because there are a lot of kids still that get that you have to work. Like the game day work is 3 months, 6 months earlier. You're putting in on game day you can actually perform well. It's not, hey, I can just show up because I'm a pretty good athlete.
Yeah.
That doesn't work anymore. Yeah. And I see a lot of the players, those that get it, and if you can get like 3 to 5% of your team who get it, then you can start building a culture around those guys.
Yeah.
And did you find that too in your career?
What I really try to do is make the kids know each other and don't get on each other, but know each other and try to understand the basic goals of life. My father taught me that when he fired me. He knew that I wasn't happy, so he made me do something that I had no idea I was going to do. And when he forced me to do it, I did it, and guess what? I loved it. So he started it off by doing that to me, something that he didn't want to do, but he knew that's what I needed. I'm trying to tell the kids today, just don't talk the talk. Just get in the weight room, lift, have fun, and get out here. When you're out here in the field, I said, I want you to play the game with your heart. Don't just go out there and, what you see in the pros today, they make a first down. What's the first thing they do? It's showtime. Everything is showtime, and I don't like that showtime.
Yeah.
I just wish they would just play the game and just show, but they gotta all
do that stuff to get attention. But
they get an interception in the pros, and 48 guys run into the end zone celebrating. I mean, we just lost 3 minutes of TV time.
Right.
So I'm old-fashioned. That's my problem.
That's good, Coach. I hear you. So you went from Milford to Memorial to West.
West High, yeah.
And West, like you said, you had Andy, your son.
Yeah.
Who was a couple years behind me, I believe, and he was on the football team. So you were actually coaching your son at that point.
Yeah, and you know what?
That's a pretty cool thing.
It was a cool thing now, but back then it was very, very tough because you'd be surprised how many parents are sitting in the stands, and they're looking at you, talking to your son, because he's a quarterback. He's a quarterback. You got your arm around him saying, dude, oh, yeah, he favors his son all the time. His son is starting. And he's playing this, and he made All-State because of him. That's a tough thing for a boy to go through, never mind a coach. And but I was glad. I think the thing I did the best, when Andy was a sophomore, he was like, of the three defensive backs I had, he was kind of like number 4. A couple times I should have started him, but I didn't. I started this other kid who I thought he was even with my son, but I think I helped my son out a lot, make him hungrier, as I started this other kid. This other kid was a senior, my son was a sophomore. And I said to myself, okay, who should be playing? A senior or a sophomore? Well, a senior, this is his last year. I'm going to let him play. But Andy saw a lot of time, just that I didn't favor my son. And that's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
Hey, everybody. Pete Hansen here, Pete Hansen Football. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of my conversation with longtime coach Paul Lavigne, who's actually still coaching to this day. And I hope you enjoyed it. I'm having a really good time talking to Coach. I could talk football with him all day. And in fact, we kind of did, which is why this has to be multiple parts. So I hope you enjoy it. If you did, please hit like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Feel free to comment if you played for, played against, coached with, coached against Coach Lavigne. And let's get that conversation started. I look forward to part 2, and I hope you do as well. We'll talk to you soon. Pete Hansen Football. Take care.